Hello, this is Stephen Whitfield of Drilling Contractor. Today I'll be speaking with Hisham Zebian, Vice President, Eastern Hemisphere for IADC, about the issues surrounding a recent law in Saudi Arabia requiring all offshore ships and vessels to fly the Saudi flag in order to operate in Saudi water. The law came into effect in July 2019, but the Kingdom's Ministry of Transport has granted two exemptions in the nearly 2 years since, with the most recent one lasting until February 2024. Mr. Zebian, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you for hosting me.
So, could you explain what this law entails and what it would have meant for drilling contractors specifically?
Thank you, Stephen, for hosting me today and for shedding some light on this particular subject. So more than 2 years ago, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has introduced a new commercial maritime law via a royal decree requiring all offshore ships and vessels to be registered under the KSA flag to continue operations in Saudi water. Initially scheduled to take effect 6 months later in July 2019, those regulations were decreed as part of the Saudi Vision 2030 initiative to develop the Saudi maritime and logistics hub of the region. Just to give some history on the subject, the new commercial law modernizes some commercial laws that have been there in Saudi since 1930. With almost 400 new articles, this constituted a considerable regulatory overhaul for the whole commercial maritime industry by the Saudi government. Ranging from registration to debt enforcement, licensing, contracts, and liability constraints, the overhaul was designed to provide certainty and clarity to KSA's maritime trade. The Commercial Maritime Law implementing guidelines issued in September 2019 provided that offshore drilling rigs or platforms would be treated under the law in the same manner as a ship or a vessel. As such, mobile offshore drilling units, or as we call them, modules, operating in offshore Saudi waters were required to transfer ownership for those modules to a Saudi incorporated entity or person and register the modules under the Saudi flag. This obviously required that each of these modules would have also a 51% ownership, or at least a 51% ownership for a Saudi entity or a Saudi person. Despite this much needed update to their commercial maritime laws, the Ministry of Public Transport graciously granted temporary exemptions to the law to provide time for non-Saudi organizations operating there to comply with the new requirement. And those exemptions were granted under Article 6, which considers ships of all states to enjoy the right of innocent passage through the territorial sea of the kingdom. And we understood back then that those exemptions were due to expire in March 2021. So with around almost 60 modules or offshore drilling rigs operating in Saudi Arabia under foreign flags, the proposed changes caused considerable concern among the drilling contractors community and members of IADC operating in the region. And the application of the law meant reflagging under the KSA laws without certainty of long-term contracts of pricing adjustments to reflect the required shift in project economics. This concern was further intensified after also that the low prices that that we saw in 2020 for the oil prices, where we started off with a $65 barrel, and then it went down when the COVID pandemic started, down to almost negative numbers, and it averaged at about $42 per barrel for the year end.
The Kingdom granted a new 3-year exemption to the law earlier this year that will last until 2024. Can you talk about how that exemption came to be and what role IADC played in that process?
Yes, Stephen, certainly. So as I've mentioned that since this law will be affecting 60 plus modules operating in Saudi Arabia. So it all started when one of our members who had a number of offshore drilling rigs operating in Saudi Arabia reaching out to us, asking the IADC to step in for some assistance. What the IADC did is that we reached out to members and representatives of all offshore drilling contractors operating in Saudi Arabia, and we told them what the IADC is planning to do, which is to form a work group that will be discussing this matter onwards. We received a lot of great interest from all the representatives in Saudi Arabia for joining this work group, and we had representatives from almost all of the drilling contractors working in Saudi Arabia. So through our collective advocacy efforts, we thought to explain the challenges of a change of flag on our drilling contractors' operations. And over the 5 months between October 2020 and February 2021, the work group was regularly meeting on a weekly basis, discussing all updates and all ideas in which we were able to present to the key stakeholders in this issue, in which those key stakeholders were able to communicate those challenges onto the Ministry of Transport, where finally we received some new developments, new positive developments around the time of end of February 2021, where a 3-year exemption was granted until February of 2024.
So what happens between now and 2024? How will IADC proceed with advocacy and lobbying with regards to this law moving forward?
So basically, just to note that IADC and the regional members here were very grateful for this exemption that took place, and the news were very much welcomed by all our members and the community as a whole. So now, after the KSA government or the Saudi government instituted this 3-year exemption to the application of the commercial maritime law to modules to provide sufficient time for drilling contractors to assess the economic impact of the change and plan its transition accordingly, IADC will be monitoring the situation and will continue with future advocacy efforts to hopefully gain a full non-conditional release for modules before 2024, subject to the agreement of the Saudi government, and with continued support in all respects for the Saudi Vision 2030. So basically, we want to try to reach a good outcome for everyone, where we will stay in line with the Saudi Vision of 2030, but at the same time we will also reach a good ending of the implications of implementing of such a law that will hopefully keep both us and the Saudi government happy, and the drilling community, of course. So down the line, in about a year or so, IADC, after the travel restrictions are lifted and after we are able to physically go to Saudi Arabia again and have meetings, face-to-face meetings with the key stakeholders over there. By the time this happens, maybe hopefully by next year, we will start working again on reaching a full agreement, or like a full lift of the exemptions, so that we won't have to go through all of this again in 2024. And this will definitely happen as we come closer to the date, which is February 2024.
Well, Mr. Zebian, thank you very much for speaking with me today. This is a fascinating issue going on in Saudi Arabia, and it'll be interesting to see how things progress in the years to come. Thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, and have a good day. And thanks for all the team that has been supporting you in this as well.
Thank you very much for visiting Drilling Contractor.